Welcome to Lothfield. Today's story, Delivery Driver by E.B. Davis. I'm a delivery driver. Sometimes I wake up not remembering where I am. Yeah, it's not the usual sort of delivery job. Take this morning, for instance. Right now, I've just polished off an omelet, and I'm finishing my coffee before hitting the road. About an hour ago, I woke up in a room in the Motel 6 across the street. It had been uncomfortably warm, the failing air conditioner still chugging away, and I'd woken with a nasty headache, the result of a poor night's sleep. Other than that, I had no idea where I was. It was the heat that I remembered first, if you can consider it a memory, and not something that never went away. I had checked in at about 7 o'clock the previous evening. It had been a hot summer day, western exposure. The poor air conditioner never had much of a chance, really. Yet, if I'd known it was going to fail so badly, I'd have asked for a different room or just gone somewhere else. I'm not picky. I pulled the motel room's double curtain open just a bit to notice my view of Interstate 5, really up close. Oh, that's right. I was in Redding, Northern California. With that little keystone figured out, the rest of my memory popped back into place. Yesterday, I had woken up in Eugene, Oregon, made stops in Florence, Eureka, Cave Junction, Weed, and finally Redding, before stopping for the night. The day before that, I'd woken in Vancouver, British Columbia, with stops in Bellingham, Edison, Elma, Aberdeen, and Astoria, before making my way south to Eugene. Today I have stops to make in Zamora, Livermore, Castroville, and Grapevine. Not sure yet where I'll stop. Tomorrow? Haven't checked my list yet. Doesn't really matter much. I suppose my memory's pretty decent when I've got a reference to start from. Maybe that's part of why I was picked for this job. Like I said, it's not the usual sort. What I just described is my usual sort of day. I drive most of the day, stop somewhere, usually somebody's house or apartment. I drop off a package, often I'll pick up a new one from the same customer, and then drive on to the next. I've got a list, a few weeks' worth, updated regularly. I've only met my employer, or I suppose I should say fellow employee, of our employer once, when I was hired. That was strange. First, they recruited me, right out of the blue, a total cold call. Second, I didn't think having a PhD was a usual requirement for a delivery driver. Since then, I've only communicated by email or phone, and rarely at that. I hadn't expected to accept the offer when I showed up in that little commercial office. Yet, the pay they offered was unsustainably generous. I drive a company car they've paid for, though they let me pick it out. I suggested a Mercedes S-Class, as a jest, but they didn't hesitate. They gave me a card for expenses, food and gas. Also hotels. Understand? I don't always sleep in cheap, crummy motels. I'll often stop at swaggy 4-star resorts. It's just that sometimes you just want to get off the road and put your feet up. Even the cheap rooms usually offer a basic standard of quality, and when you're on the road all day, every day, the bad rooms and the good rooms tend to just blur together. It's why sometimes I just don't remember where I am. Food, hotels, entertainment really. I have a lot of leeway in how I want to go about my day, even on the weekends. And holidays I have, off I can still use the card. The only things I need to concern myself with are a few simple aspects of the job. I knock on a stranger's door. I give them the package I've been carrying, or they give me a new one. The package is of reasonable proportions, never too big or heavy or unwieldy, very nondescript. I place that package in the trunk of my car, always the trunk, and then drive to the drop-off and repeat. I'm to drive carefully and responsibly, which I'd always do anyway. I'm not to drink or take drugs while driving, or for that matter drive while tired or texting, which I'd never do anyway. Minor speeding is not an issue. 5 or 10 over the limit on a freeway is not a big deal. If there's any kind of delay that's not my fault, unexpected road closure, mechanical trouble, major accident, inclement weather, it's not a problem. I just need to phone it in, and the company will take care of it, contact the customers, and I can continue on when possible. I'm not to draw attention to myself. If I'm pulled over, I'm to act responsibly and respectfully, and if I receive a ticket, the company will pay the fine. Several years in, and I've never had that problem. I am absolutely not to give a police officer any probable cause to search the trunk or the package therein. If a police officer does search, I am to, at the immediate earliest opportunity, call the number the company had me memorize, and their legal department will take care of the situation. Afterwards, my position will be terminated, and I will be given a generous severance package. The contract makes it very clear that the company is totally liable for any contents of the package, and I am simply a courier, ignorant of the package's content. I am never to investigate the contents of the package. If I attempt to, my position will be immediately terminated without any severance package. The contract makes it clear that this is how I, personally, remain unliable for any of the contents. What my contract doesn't say, but I can only guess, is that this is the reason for my exorbitant salary. I suppose maybe there are very filthy rich people out there who will pay large sums of money to have various very private, but perfectly legal, items delivered discreetly. I honestly don't think that's the case, though. First, most of the rich people I've met are pretty stingy and would ship something highly valuable by UPS, ground service if they could save a few bucks. Second, I'm pretty sure our customers aren't rich. I meet them personally at their doors. The stop in Elma the other day was in a trailer park. So naturally, my speculation, and for any legal purposes I'll repeat, this is only speculation, was that maybe these packages have illegal contents. I used to spend a lot of time thinking and worrying about what sort of illegal content it could be. I don't think it's drugs. They have their own system of mules for that, right? Maybe that's only TV, I don't know. Of all the things it could be, the two possibilities that cost me the least consternation were smuggling or fencing in some kind of valuable commodity, like jewels or works of art. The other, I guess, is closely related, and it involved the smuggling of priceless antiquities. I've read articles about how that's a very lucrative trade, how it's a very small and organized community, and very, very rich. I still don't know what the deal is with the customers, though, or maybe that's just some sort of front. There was also something kind of exciting about being involved in the illicit antiquities trade, like I was a minor bad guy out of an Indiana Jones movie. Don't get me wrong, I don't support the trade and would prefer those things find their way to museums. I was only ever speculating about that, usually to keep my mind occupied during the more boring parts of the drive. There are other illegal things I'd very much not want to be transporting, on a moral level. I know better now. And besides, they were paying me specifically not to know what was in the packages I was delivering. Boy, do they pay. The thing is, I'm hardly ever at my home. I paid off my mortgage in the first year. The only expenses I really pay are the property taxes, housekeeping services, insurance, and utilities. That means the paychecks just keep stacking up in my account. I thought about investing in stocks of something. I mean, if you've got money, you can leverage it to make more money. Yet, I'm in no rush. I don't think I'll be needing to invest. I have no concern about making more money than I've already got. In fact, it's piling up so fast, I thought I might start buying up more houses. Not as a real estate investment, not at first. The idea was, I'd buy a house in different parts of the country, and if I were in that state on a weekend, I could stay at home while out on my route. Just for the comfort of it. It'd also be something like a security blanket. If I were to ever quit or lose this job and didn't need to travel anymore, I could pick my favorite place to live and sell the other houses, which would most certainly appreciate faster than the interest in my savings account. So that's why I'm perfectly content with being a delivery driver. You know what? I enjoy the driving too. It's a nice perk. You might think long-distance driving all day must be a terrible bore that wears you out. That's partly true, I won't lie. Yet, in my opinion, the sights I've seen make it all worth it. I get off the main freeway a lot too, so it's not like it's just a long-distance trip you're trying to finish as fast as possible. I've seen grand sights. The Columbia River Gorge at sunset in autumn, the Grand Tetons at dawn, the New York skyline from all the bridges. It's the subtle stuff, though, that really makes your heart ache. I remember a curving, winding road going over rolling hills in Nebraska with pretty little farmhouses around each bend. An old barn in Vermont, at dusk, with the fog growing in sheets on the low ground. The view from a recently plowed road in the high Cascades, where the peaks surrounding you were covered in such fresh snow, it looked like marshmallow fluff. A great fault-block mountain rising out of the barren flatlands of eastern Oregon, so high and wide it generated its own rich ecosystems. A little old mining town in West Virginia, where all of the buildings were of historical provenance, not because they've been preserved by historical societies, but because they've been well used and maintained by the people who love it. A lightning storm at night in rural Louisiana that seemed to roll on for infinity. I thought about getting a little dashboard camera and recording my trips. I guess that's what led to it all, unraveling. I'd forgotten I bought the thing, online on a whim from a hotel room, until I found it among the usual stack of packages on a trip home. By then, I'd set the idea aside as rather pointless. I'd never find time to edit such a video, let alone watch it. The scenery I had always enjoyed was always going to be a fleeting moment, enjoyed spontaneously, and maybe again in memory. A dash cam would never really recapture the moments. So then, I started thinking about what else I could use the little camera for. I guess it was always a dumb idea. Now that I look back, I don't know why I thought of it in the first place. I had the camera, I had the car, I had the mysterious packages in the trunk. I'm not going to say I never thought about opening the packages. It was sort of like being at some kind of console at work with a big red button, and your boss tells you that no matter what, never push the big red button. Sure, you wonder what would happen. That temptation, though, never came close to breaking my will. Or at least my will to keep getting paid so well. I guess that's why I put the camera in the trunk, along with a floodlight. I could study the package without actually opening it. That's what the contract said, after all. I was supposed to keep the package in the trunk, and I wasn't supposed to examine its contents. It never said anything about the exterior. It never said anything about not having cameras in the trunk. I know now that must have been some sort of loophole my employers had never considered. I suppose in the future they'll fill that loophole up. I only found the hole myself by dumb luck. I never really used the car's navigation system. I always had a great sense of direction, and the night before, I'd go over all the directions to my destinations from the luxury of my hotel room. So the large monitor on the dash of my luxury car seldom displayed anything but the station ID of the radio channel or the title of the audiobook I was listening to. So I ran a USB cable up from the trunk, through the back seats to the console. The video feed showed up at the push of a button on my steering wheel. I immediately wondered why I bothered. On the first trip, middle of Iowa, when I checked, it was exactly what I'd have expected. A view of my trunk, a pack of Coke, my toolbox, and the package. All exactly as I'd left it. I think I remember feeling embarrassed, so I turned off the feed. I turned it back on for the next few deliveries, and each time was the same, so I almost forgot I'd bothered in the first place. It was sometime later, don't remember how much exactly, but I was on the road to Spooner, Wisconsin. I was scrolling through my media during one of those boring stretches. I came to the trunk cam feed and paused, because something felt off. I wasn't sure why. I just felt the little hairs on my arms raise up. It was an instinctual sort of feeling. Now that I look back, I wonder if it was instinct that led me to put in the camera in the first place, or something else. I kept the feed on as I drove and kept glancing at the screen, suspiciously. My first thought was that there was some kind of light out. It looked shadowy somehow. Except that didn't make any sense. There was only one light in the trunk, the floodlight I had put up on a hook on the ceiling of the trunk. It was as bright as it had ever been, except in the spot by the package I was carrying. I couldn't figure it out. I kept driving, and I kept my eye on it, and it kept getting darker. Then I noticed the spot on the package itself. It was sort of the reverse of a light from a flashlight. A spot of darkness, round, fairly distinct if not sharp, and it grew. It grew sort of like a tumor, like you might imagine a small melanoma on pale skin, getting bigger and bigger. It grew until the whole package was very dark, despite the light. I kept trying to think of reasonable explanations, camera artifacts, digital compression, LED banding glitches. But nothing really explained it. Then, though I don't know how, it's not like I was discerning any detail, it got blacker. The total absence of light. It wasn't like a package wrapped in black paper. It was like some kind of hole in 3 dimensions, matching perfectly the length, width, and height of the package. I felt sure if I could change the position of the camera, the hole would change with the proportions of the package. I almost wanted to pull over and open the trunk, see it with my own 2 eyes. By now, I was close to the delivery site, so I waited while I drove another 20 miles or so. I turned the feed off because I couldn't handle the temptation. When I finally did stop and popped the trunk, the package looked exactly like it was supposed to. Brown paper wrapping. The kind of clear tape with the little parallel strings running through it. The address label had my company's letterhead on it. The man who signed it was an older man, living in what looked like a vacation cabin on a lake. He seemed no different than any other customer. He gave me another package to deliver, this one in Minnesota. If he noticed me acting strangely, he didn't let on. One of the more personal things about this whole experience that has disturbed me is how quickly I accepted it all. I used to be a rational, logical, scientifically minded person. Now, within the span of an hour or so, I had accepted the paranormal wholesale. Everything I understood about the world was thrown out the window. I kept expecting my phone to ring, a company representative calling to tell me that my position had been terminated, that they somehow just psychically knew that their cover had been blown. I had a very restless night that night in my hotel room in Minneapolis. I thought my life was in danger. I was dealing with something far beyond my mortal understanding. No call ever came. No demon teleported behind me and stole my soul. I don't think they know, my employers. Like I said, I think I found a loophole they never considered. The next several deliveries did nothing unusual. Most don't. I don't think it's because any of these packages are normal, no. It's just whatever's wrong with them isn't always visible. When I do see something strange, it's almost always different. One delivery in New Mexico started bulging outwards like it was breathing, in and out for hundreds of miles. There was another package, a small one, that also bulged out, but instead of the entire surface bulging out, it was only multiple little dimples that moved around. Sort of imagine fingers of a hand inside the package, pressing out, only they moved in no pattern of a hand. There was one package that turned itself over and over, like a rectangular opaque hamster ball, but never moved once from its original position. There was another that floated. Whenever I braked or turned corners, it would drift in the appropriate direction, then drift back. There was one that burst into flame. It was small at first, the flame about the size of a lit match. It grew, though, and more slowly than you would have expected from a paper-wrapped package. By the time half of the package had ignited, the trunk was filling with smoke. I should have been able to smell it, but I didn't. A few miles later, it was fully engulfed, and I could hardly see the flames through the smoke. In time, the camera went fully black. That was the only time I ever stopped the car to check. I opened up the trunk and the package, and everything else was perfectly normal. I grabbed a Coke out of the case for cover, just because I had the strange feeling I was being watched. One time, a package started to turn itself inside out. I saw bubble wrap just before I turned off the feed. I don't know if that counted as inspecting the contents of the package, but I didn't want to risk it. I never turned the feed on again until that package had been delivered. There's one package that did a thing that I just can't describe. I'm not trying to be facetious or do some sort of unknowable cosmic horror thing. I literally can't describe it. Here, I'll try. The package flattened out like the scent of fresh strawberries. The package upwised ponderously like a green barnacle. The package integrated an overripe mirror. It's like I have explanation aphasia. I have a real conundrum. There's a part of me that wants to quit. Put in 2 weeks' notice, thank you. It was nice working for you. Then retire to some mansion on a tropical island and never worry about anything again. A part of me wants to see this through. I'll never have a connection to the paranormal again. How can I live with myself if I leave now without understanding? I think if I just keep going, it's all going to come to a head at some point anyway. It's starting to leak out, the supernatural. I don't know if it's just in my head or if the world itself is changing. As far as I know, my employers still haven't noticed. Sometimes, when I'm driving in the dark, at night, or in stormy weather, I'll see a pair of headlights. Perfectly normal headlights. Except there's no car behind them. They'll move around, like a car driving. Sometimes they come in the opposite direction, and they're gone in a flash. Sometimes they're in another lane going the same direction. Then they and I will go our separate ways, same as any two cars. I don't know what they are. Sometimes I see freeway exits that aren't supposed to be there. Exit 189, Airport Way. Exit 190, Martin Luther King Way. Exit 191, Commercial Street. Exit 828,767, Tannhauser's Crypt. I haven't taken any of these exits. I keep getting more and more tempted. There's a radio channel I've discovered. It's on the AM band. I'm able to find it, same frequency, wherever I am in the country. That shouldn't be possible. It's one of those evangelical channels. Fire and brimstone type preachers. 24 hours a day, same guy, non-stop, no commercials. He likes to preach about damnation and eschatology, weird people's names and place names from extinct languages. When he quotes Bible verses, they're Bible verses that aren't actually in the Bible. At least from no canon that I know. I check with the Bibles in hotel rooms every night. I'm pretty sure someday I'll start finding them. Something has to happen. I can quit, but the paranormal will still be there. Or my employers can discover and close the loophole. Or something else, maybe something worse than my employers, will find me. It's all very distracting. I think that's part of the reason I don't remember where I am when I wake up. It's not always just restless sleep. I think someday I'll wake up in a place that doesn't really exist. It's like the whole world, or at least my whole world, is coming apart at the seams. I wonder what would happen if I installed a microphone. Okay, that was Delivery Driver. I hope you liked it. I don't remember what exactly inspired this story. I only remember that once inspired, I finished it in one sitting. It just flowed right out of me, and I hadn't even known where I was going with it until I got there. I've had the idea of doing a much longer format story involving a much longer road trip. That concept started out as a crime drama, though I suppose there's room for doing it as horror. Like this, too. Well, I like this one, and I hope you liked it too. Let me know what you think in the comments. Please like, subscribe, and recommend. I hope to have a lot more for you in the future.